Having a pet can be a truly rewarding experience for people and animals alike. At First Class Canine, we get the opportunity to change lives by creating balanced pack members, one family at a time. We will work with any dog to solve any problem, guaranteed. No dog is too far gone. Here at First Class Canine, we are all about dogs. Simplified. Alrighty everyone, so we're going to make a quick video. I'm just going to call it an exercise supplemental video. And essentially what it is it's going to cover a bit more of the finer points of exercise to help kind of drive the point home that, you know, the stuff that we've covered in our session. I'm going to revisit some of that stuff and just kind of refresh that. And then we're going to dig a little deeper and see what else we can figure out about this whole exercise thing, and perhaps spark some creativity about ways to make it work for you. I do want to stress that everybody's life is different, but that doesn't mean that you can't exercise your dog. It's just a matter of getting creative. And I hope that things we're going to cover here in this video are going to help kind of not just show you some things that I already do, but also spark your creativity a little bit, get you down figuring out what works for you, what can you do right now, and how can you help your dog get rid of some of that energy, all that energy they get every day. So we're going to review right quick 3 things. So this is about exercise. So first thing we're going to review is why it's important. There we go. So, exercise is important because dog behaviors, good or bad, are fueled by energy. Exercise is important because 9 out of 10 dog behavioral issues are driven by excess energy. So, getting rid of that energy and also using it in appropriate ways is going to go a long way to curtail most of your dog's problem behaviors. Not that it's just going to stop them altogether, but it removes the fuel for them and teaches the dog to apply that energy towards appropriate things as opposed to how it's been using that energy in the past. That being said, I just want to briefly touch on how much so you have a dog, you decide you want to get a second dog. 2 dogs is not enough to exercise your dog. You have a dog, you feel like you don't want to leave them in their crate all day. You want them to be able to walk around the house and stuff like that. The walking of the run of the house is not enough to exercise a dog. Get a house and they have a big huge yard in the backyard. A big huge yard is not enough to exercise the dog. The dog gets to bark at and chase after squirrels. The dog gets to bark at and chase after cats that run along the fence and possums that run along the fence. Is this exercise? It is a form of exercise, yes. Is it enough? Likely not. But even if it is, the problem is, as you'll see later on in our video, it's not just getting energy out of the dog, it's how you do it. The biggest thing that needs to be understood is that dogs need exercise. They have energy, and I guarantee you, whether you use it appropriately or not, it will be used. And if you look at a dog's behaviors along the lines of energy, you'll see, particularly when it comes to the more higher energy activities such as aggression, chasing, prey drive, all these things prove your dog's energy. And they prove the dog's need to use that energy. The biggest problem isn't that your dog has energy, it's just that it's learned some very, very inappropriate ways of using it. So, does your dog chase squirrels in the yard? Does your dog chase cats on the fence? Does your dog chase possums on the fence and hunt little things, critters that it finds in the yard and stuff like that? It may. And does that use up energy? Quite possibly. Just the same as having another dog. I don't consider it a valid form of exercise, but it can use energy. But you also need to look at how the dog is using the energy. If they're using it in an inappropriate way or at high levels without rules, boundaries, and limitations, then you're setting yourself and your dog up for disaster down the road. So, how much? A lot. I put my dogs through 3 to 4 hours, if I can put it together, 3 to 4 hours of exercise in a day. If I can't put it together, then at least an hour. As far as it's concerned, the essence is not just getting out the energy, but as we touched on a couple seconds ago, it is important to make sure that they're getting it out in appropriate ways. So if, for instance, your dog is food bowl aggressive, you need to understand that there is energy fueling this aggression at the food bowl. So if that energy is drained and applied towards something more appropriate, you're going to see that food bowl thing become less of a thing. It may be that the dog continues the exact same behavior, but what you'll notice if you'll test them is that it's 10 times easier to convince them to let it go if you test them. So we're not going to go into too much. We're not going to stick on this for too long, just because it should have already been covered in our session with how to exercise your dog, how to work with your dog on energy, stuff like that. So we're going to move on. So another thing we should have covered in your session is high and low. It's just how I'm going to start calling it. You want to have a high version of exercise, which I will use biking, for instance, or rollerblading with the dog pulling, or just walking next to me, running next to me. And the reason why is because some dogs just have that much energy, and once around the block isn't going to cut it. So what it helps to do with those guys is to get them next to a bike, get them next to some rollerblades. Heck, if you got a dirt bike or something like that and you've got some trails, hit them. Do whatever you can to get as much of that energy out as possible. However, one thing that's important about this, be it... that's horrible. Hi. One thing that's important about this is that even when you're using high energy, you need to have rules, boundaries, and limitations. We're going to cover that further in this video. However, just starting that conversation right now, just because a dog is in a high energy state doesn't mean they have permission to lose control. So if you're exercising your dog next to your dirt bike and a cat runs across the street, the dog is in a high energy state. If they have a habit of chasing cats, then that's going to be where that energy wants to flow. That is not appropriate. Give a correction, set them right back on path, because what you're doing is biking, and they need to be next to you doing what you're doing. Be it high energy or low energy, rules, boundaries, and limitations still apply. Next up is low. I always recommend exercising low energy at least as often as you exercise high energy. Why? Because it gives the dog the opportunity to practice exercise and getting that energy out in a more calm manner. So for instance, if I bike with my dog in the morning, we may bike for, it's always going to be at least an hour. So there's that. However, in the evening or immediately after we bike, we're going to walk for at least 30 minutes. Because again, we're going to practice that calm, relaxed, do as I say, just live in the moment. We're just walking, we're getting rid of our energy, but we're doing it calmly. It could be hard to start with a low energy item with a dog that hasn't been drained yet, particularly if they have a lot of energy. So this is an opportunity to get rid of all that energy in an appropriate way. This is an opportunity to use training during exercise. The dog has to practice calm submissive. So, now that we've covered all that, we are going to go ahead and dig right into what the point of this video is. This is Amina's food. You'll find that there's kibble in there, which in this case is a sport dog blend of 30-20. Again, 30-20 being the 30% fat or 30% protein, 20% fat. And then you'll find that I actually base her food on raw food. So you see a chicken leg quarter in there, and you also see a fish head. I won't bore you with all the details. Both of those are good for the dog. They help with her skin and coat. They help with her protein requirements. And the kibble is actually there as a supplement. Before we move on, I just want to make sure and point out that any dog that comes to stay with me for training or even pet sitting, because I train the dogs that I pet sit, they're going to get a diet much like that. It's going to be something that is balanced and nutritional, and it's going to help to put in more than what I take out every day when I exercise them. Moving on, I want to point out that as you see these videos and these clips, you'll find that just like any good playground game or game of cards or whatever you play with other people, there's always rules, boundaries, and limitations. That's what makes games fun. You have to find a way to play. You have to find a way to have a clear winner if it's a game of competition, or clear objectives and goals if it's not a competition. Perhaps it's a cooperative game or what may have you. It doesn't matter. There's got to be clearly defined rules, boundaries, and limitations. It's not a bad thing. It's what makes the fun things fun. And when it comes to playing with your dog and exercising with your dogs, there is absolutely no difference. Rules, boundaries, and limitations are what make the fun part of dog ownership as fun as it can be. What you'll find in the upcoming clips is that we're going to play games, we're going to have a lot of fun, but you'll see me give corrections, you'll see me give rewards, you'll see me say good job, maybe. But for the most part, the reward is actually the activity. You don't have to say good job when somebody follows the rules on a game of spades or dominoes. No, the reward is being able to continue playing. Just the same way, you don't have to say good dog every time your dog does something right. The reward is being able to participate and be a part of the group. In this next video, I pretty much pick on Amina. I'm just going to go ahead and say that flat out. What you're going to see is me dancing to what is one of my favorite songs that are entirely Spanish, and essentially baiting her. I know that people will ask, how do you keep a dog calm when you're playing a game and stuff like that, and this is kind of a good example of that. I'm not really playing a game, but my energy levels are up while I'm dancing. Of course, I'm enjoying the music and dancing to the song, and you'll find Amina is trying to jump up and join right in. She senses the higher energy level, and she wants to join in and partake of that. However, unfortunately, with her higher energy level, without it being directed towards an appropriate behavior, she ends up trying to nip and jump and all that other kind of stuff, and that's where she gets her corrections. She doesn't get corrected for anything other than going out of a proper mindset. By the end, she's just laying there on the floor while I'm dancing. It's not something that she takes personal. Oh, hey, I can't dance with Corey. Woe is me. Can't dance with my daddy. No. It is to say, the rules of this game is that it's one player. Now, can you train a dog to dance with you? Absolutely. However, this is not how it starts. It starts with rules, boundaries, and limitations, and setting up the game from the start with discipline. Off. Good girl. Ah. Miss. What'd I say? We're just gonna go ahead and fast forward through this part. Alright, so jumping right in, our next video we're going to be at a playground, and we're just using the playground equipment to get more exercise out of our dog. And what's noted is that, yes, I'm jumping all over the place like a little monkey, but I'm doing only so much. Amina's going up and down stairs, she's coming down a slide, she's walking back and forth, she's running around stuff, and as far as it's concerned, we're not leaving a 20-foot by 20-foot area, but that dog is getting worked out, especially when it comes to jumping up and going upstairs and stuff like that.
And what's this then? Some crazy squid on a bike? What, you think you're fast, do you? You're not. You probably haven't got the 300 on that. It's great for starters. And children.
This next video explains itself pretty well, so without further ado...
Alrighty guys, one of the simplest problem solving games, simplest problem solving games in the world. Find somewhere you can play, Mina, sit, good girl. Find somewhere you can play, some sort of building, somewhere safe of course. Come here, don't get started yet. Somewhere safe of course, but really something with stuff like this, stuff that you can get over, that your dog something that you can get over that your dog may not be able to quite so easily. If they need to practice jumps, it's a great place for it. It's a great place to build some resolve. These aren't particularly high rails, and they're always going to land in grass. So it ends up being a pretty safe environment, relatively. Of course, this isn't going to beat state-of-the-art equipment in a state-of-the-art facility, yada, yada, yada. But it's something that you can do at home. You can go out and do right now, and you can watch the benefits from it. Just two quick things. One, you got to drain your dog's energy. That's stating the obvious. Two, you'll drain their energy 10 times faster if you're working their brain more than you work in their body. I guarantee it every time. So things like scent work, where they have to track, things like, come here, things like problem solving, like what we're about to do. This was her first time doing it today. She's figured it out pretty quick. But up here, she can't get to me directly. Got a building on either side of me. Whichever side I run to, she's figured out that she can get around the building. Again, it doesn't seem like much, but trust me, you're getting your dog out, you're getting them to use their brain. What we're gonna do today, we're gonna do something a little trickier. This time, I'm gonna run this way. She's gonna run that way. She's gonna come around there. We're gonna run around here. And wait for it. There he goes, there it goes. All right. All right. And back up, back down. All right. And she's almost on me. Okay. Just like that. All right. Yes, this game does require physical activity from you. However, goodness, it can be fun. It can be a lot of fun. Get your dog thinking. Come on, come on. Come on, come on. Come on, Mina. Come on. Come on, we're going this way. Come on, come on. Watch this turn she makes. She flies around that corner. Hey, you little squeak. Alright, that's enough for now.
So, as I said in the last clip, and as we'll find out a little later on in this video, it is absolutely correct that your dog is going to use a lot more energy thinking than they will running. As far as the reasons why, that's anyone's guess. But I can tell you from years of experience that that is absolutely true. In the next video, we're actually just calmly walking down a trail in Colorado. What you'll find is that I've actually got Amina up front of me, which most people will tell you can't do that if you want to be in control. Again, I'm just going to quickly touch on that. It's not about where your dog is, it's how they are where they are. And what you'll find with Amina in this video, she's calmly and submissively walking in front of me and obeying my commands. I can tell her to watch her pace, I can tell her to slow down or stop. I have her in front of me on trails, particularly when we were out in Colorado, because there were too many things out there in those forests that could run off with her, and I wouldn't even know if she was walking behind me. On this trail, Amina does a lot of sniffing, she does a lot of exploring, there's lots of sensory overload and all that other kind of stuff, and it's great exercise even though we're just walking.
Yeah. Did you do these on the way up? What, the branches? The big one of white shoes, but yeah, it's like I didn't know that would be good.
Watch your pace. Pace.
We're getting close now.
There you go. Up, pace.
Now, there are countless hours of video of me running next to dogs or having dogs run next to my bicycle, Amina included. So I'm not going to make you watch a whole video of that. But just to know, that is definitely an option if you're looking for a way to get energy out of your dog, as we talked about before. This would definitely fall into the high energy category. You don't want your dog running next to the bicycle. A high trot, not jogging, but a high trot. Race walking is what you want, and that's perfectly fine. Next up is going to be swimming. It's a great way to get a whole lot of energy out of your dog. It's low impact, if impact at all, and it's something that pretty much every dog can do. When it comes to this dog in particular, he's actually quite afraid of water. As you can see here in this picture, getting anywhere near the pool, he would lock down mentally. However, it's no different than any other fear or phobia that a dog has. And rather than coddling him and catering to it, we actually work together to get through this fear. And with time and practice and patience, Buddy is the dog's name, was able to overcome that fear of swimming. Now we're gonna make a separate video that catalogs that journey, and we're gonna discuss it. But for the purposes of this video, I'm just gonna include, the before picture, some of the work that we did during. You'll note Amina's out there as well because sometimes it helps to have a buddy. He really likes her. What I do want to talk about is while we're out there, of course, this is a dog who wouldn't have gotten into the water on their own, but we're exercising him and we're teaching him how to accept the water. But what I want to point out is that it requires holding him in the water, and although I'm supporting him, his legs are moving. That dog is swimming. He is swimming his heart out. And as far as it's concerned, I'm keeping him from panicking so that he's not getting into that state, However, we are just calmly using up all the energy he's got, because it takes a ton of energy to stay swimming in that water, especially when you have a dog that is as dense as a pit bull. Those dogs will sink like a rock, and from the moment they hit the water, they have to be stroking and stroking hard. So, in order to do that, um, it makes it very, very easy to drain a lot of energy out of these dogs by just having them in the water, period. One thing that I will point out is that they should not be unsupervised while in the water, because, again, these dogs are so dense, they're not going to be able to stay up forever. And all of that power that they have to use to stay afloat is going to run out quicker than, for instance, say even a Newfoundland or certainly a poodle, both water retrieving dogs. And as far as it's concerned, in this video, we'll walk around, we'll do stuff like that. The dogs are constantly paddling, and I'm also teaching him where the ladder is. I'll point him towards it, I'll let him go, and he'll just swim right over to it and get out on his own. However, I'm making sure that he's not escaping from the water and using, again, that energy in a bad way, using it in a state of flight. He can't be allowed to do that. It's got to be calm, it's got to be casual, relaxed, and then he gets the point. And that's what fast-tracked the success of getting him started in his life as a water dog. So in this video, you'll see that I'm using the water in a different way. I've got Amina on a float, and she has to work her brain and her body to balance on it. Walking, unless she walks just right, is like walking on a hamster wheel, because the float moves as opposed to her actually getting anywhere. And every once in a while I'll bump it or let it float a little ways or what may have you, and she has to try to balance on it, and that's just fine. It's another way to use that energy, and it's also a great little rest in between swimming sessions. The first time we came out here, he wouldn't come into the water on his own, and also when just trying to lead him into the water, he would actually stop and whimper and stuff like that. So today was the first day we tried to just get him to start coming into the water on his own and following me into the water. And today, there you go, good job, buddy. Come on, buddy, come on. Almost. There you go, good boy. There you go. And that's all I want him to do. Now, for this next video, it's actually a precursor to training, just teaching a dog to follow their nose. But what you'll find is, yes, it's a game. Yes, it's getting the dog to use their brain, which again is getting them to use that energy. But it, like everything else, has rules, boundaries, and limitations. At the start of the video, Amina is jumping at the treat. She's actually nipping my hand, and I give her those corrections. Now, people will be afraid that doing that might stop the dog from pursuing the treat in the future, but that's not the case, as you see here. If done properly, you don't have to worry about breaking the dog's spirit, as most people would say. The main point of this is getting her to follow the treat, which all it takes is me wiggling my hand or wiggling my finger in order to get her to do that, especially if she knows something's in the hand. Giving her a no, especially if she's in that high state, is actually just going to cause her to take it down a notch, especially if I start wiggling my hand again. So no worries there. I just want you to be able to see what the difference is between letting a dog decide the energy level of the activity and the game and all that stuff and the rules of the game, and setting up the rules of the game and the energy level without actually breaking the dog's spirit.
Calm. Good girl. Good girl. girl. Mm. Good girl. Now, here's a bit of a curveball. If you've been paying attention, you've heard me say several times that using a dog's brain is going to drain a lot more energy than just using their body. In the next clip, you're actually going to see me working with 3 dogs, teaching them all how to sit. Of course, it takes a little bit of management skills working with them to keep them all calm and not have to worry about dogs competing. However, in this clip, this is just messing around with the dogs, letting them earn some treats. But it's using energy, it's using a lot of brain power, and it's teaching them some valuable lessons that are going to be helpful down the road. Again, you'll see that I use discipline with rules, boundaries, and limitations. Don't jump on me, don't jump at the treat. You're not going to get it while you're in that hyper state. Don't compete with each other. You're not going to get it if you try to compete with each other. As a matter of fact, you'll get something entirely different if you get into a fight. And as far as it's concerned, the dogs have no need for me to say good dog. Their treat is being able to be near the treats, being able to smell them, which dogs will definitely say that smelling a treat is just as good as eating it. You'll notice that because of the rules, the boundaries, and the limitations that are set up, we can have 3 dogs all sitting next to a human who's giving out treats. There's no fighting, there's no jostling, and we have a very peaceful picture. This is a great way to drain your dog's energy when it's cold outside, or when the weather's just horrible, or if you just haven't got the time to pack up and go on a long trail run. The sky's the limit. You could be working on tracking inside the house, which would be perfectly fine. You could do a few other things like teaching how to go get a drink from the refrigerator for you, or finding the lost remote, or whatever you want to do. Get creative. Now, this next video is proof that I will happily mess with a dog's head. Sometimes when working with them to get them to think and get them to process things and develop their education a little bit, you'll find that they start to get ahead of you. However, sometimes it's fun to just throw a curveball at them. Every time we go on a road trip, we always try to stop and see the sights and smell the sounds. And this clip is out in the middle of the desert of New Mexico, where there just happened to be this amphitheater that echoes everything you say. So, me, taking the opportunity to screw with Amina, took her out and set her right down in the middle of the amphitheater and called her name. And it was a blast. And as far as it's concerned, again, it's getting her to think. It's screwing with her a little bit. It was fun. It made for an entertaining video. I don't think you're going to be able to hear too much of the reverb, but you can see that there's a definite delay in between Amina's looking at me and hearing what I am saying, and then stopping and listening to what sounds like me coming from the exact opposite direction. It's funny, but again, it's messing with her. If we had more time there, I certainly would have run around and let her sniff stuff, and then as soon as she got, a little far ahead of me sniffing on something, I'd have disappeared and then called her name and let her try to find me. But again, as far as it's concerned, it's really just a matter of, get creative and get that energy out of the dog. So without further ado, here it is. Right there. Wait. Mina. Amina. Mina. Sit. Mina. Sit. Speak. Mina. Speak. Mina, come. Come here. Come here. Mina. Come here. Mina. Come here. Mina. Come on, let's go.
I just want to end on this. Let your dog tell you their limits. I don't care if they're old. I don't care if they're recovering from an injury. Whatever it is, let your dog tell you their limits. Now, let me start by saying this. If your veterinarian has given a recommendation, say for instance, easy to know activity, then by all means, please follow the veterinarian's recommendations. However, if within that they say, for instance, light activity, or especially if they say let the dog tell you how much they want to do, I'm going to go ahead and say that that's exactly what you should be doing. This is a picture of a dog who was able to walk 6 miles despite wearing that brace. Now, he was cleared for light activity, and that's exactly what we did. It was just a walk, and he did just fine. No limping, no nothing at all. But the only reason why that was possible was because I never let the thoughts that were going through my head stop him from getting what he needed as a dog. I didn't say, oh, he's got a cast on, so he must not need exercise, or he must not be able to exercise. No. I let him tell me when he was tired. And the same thing if you have an older dog. Just because they're old doesn't mean they stop being a dog. Take them out, walk them as much as they will walk, let them rest when they need rest, and just because they're not a puppy running all over the place doesn't mean they don't have energy. Respect the dog, respect their character and their age or their injury, and also respect their nature. That said, I hope this has been a video that kind of got your thoughts jogging, and hopefully you're going to take this and think of some creative ways to get out there and exercise your dog on a regular basis. And by get out there, it might be stay inside and exercise your dog. Whatever. Just get creative and have a blast, because that's what it's about.
Who's tired? Who's tired? You're tired.
It's laundry day. Well, let the geek in the pink take a stab at it. If you like the way I'm thinking, baby, wink at it. I may be skinny at times, but I'm fat full of rhymes. Pass me the mic and I'm gonna grab at it. Well, isn't it delicious, crazy way that I'm kissing this, baby? Listen to this, don't wanna miss it while I'm sitting. Sometimes you gotta fit in to get in, but don't ever quit, 'cause soon I'm gonna let you in. Well, see,